So this is all about planning your LinkedIn presence and how to get the most out of LinkedIn. It's a marketing tool. And I find most students, most people that are just entering the industry, think it's a great way to find their next job. It's networking. I wouldn't call this social media. It should have a better term. It should be business networking, something along those lines. A lot of people aren't doing that, and in fact, some of the changes that LinkedIn has made recently is trying to make it a little more social, which I think is sort of a mistake. I think should have been a little bit more business focused, but I still treat it that same way. We use this in sales prospecting, but I use it almost every day of my life, and I'm not looking for a new job. I have people that try to connect with me. I connect with other people. I get myself into new groups. I follow different groups. I also, from time to time, like I've done a presentation on variable data, and I just did a search of Clemson graduates that are connected with variable data. So I do a keyword search, and I look for just people that are graduates of Clemson University. And then I look for students or graduates that I know, and then I send out a survey to them about things they're doing with variable data. And I've used that in presentations that I've made at trade shows. So there's so many different ways to use LinkedIn. It's just a really powerful tool to find people to do business with, people that can help you solve problems, and so on. So let's talk about what you need to do to be really good at this. Now, I also have to tell you that I'm not doing this just me thinking about this. I've read 2 books with it. I actually took a distance learning class with Vivica von Rosen, and I'll show you her LinkedIn page in a little bit, and learned a lot about what was going on. I like this quote that came out of LinkedIn for Business by Brian Carter. It says, "Every strategy is enacted well by some companies, poorly by others, and completely neglected by others." And I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you how some companies aren't using this very well at all, especially CEOs. I've done this presentation for several CEOs, and they get somebody else to write it. They don't see it as a marketing tool for their company. So there really needs to be a total commitment to making this work. A half-hearted attempt is going to give marginal results. It doesn't take a lot of work to have a pretty decent page, pretty decent profile, but you need to pay attention to some of the details. So let's go through those and let's see what's going on. First of all, you need to understand networking. Again, to a young person just starting in the work world, LinkedIn typically is seen as a tool for finding their next job. You need to be thinking about it as a career, not as a job. How is it going to help you develop your career? And just connecting with the right people. I know some people that if people ask them to connect, they just accept everybody. I'm very picky. I will look at people's profile and I will decide if I see that there is a win-win between the two of us. I've actually sent emails back to people and say, "Why do you want to connect? I've looked at your profile and I can't see any reason why you want to be connected with me. Are you just doing a numbers game here?" So understand that it's a tool, and it's just how well you use the tool is how successful you are with this. For experienced business people, it's part of their daily life. You identify people that potentially may be helpful to your goals. And you also need to be looking for people that you can help. And again, that's part of it. Maybe it's not really sales, but it's also goodwill for the company and understanding. And if you're helping them and you need help someday, maybe they can't help you back, but they know someone that can. And again, that's all about networking. Think about who you want to connect to. Don't just accept every invitation, because it really isn't a numbers game. There needs to be a reason, and it's not always have to be an immediate reason. It could be something you see yourself going down the road. Like for, let's say, I'm talking to someone that wants to be a CMO someday in a company. Well, I would try to join the CMO peer group and start listening to what they're saying and find out what's going on. Those are just things that you can do to be successful. So it depends on your current and future role in the company, whether you're in sales or management or you're in production. Are you looking for customers? Are you looking for vendors? Are you looking for partners? Are you looking for people that can help you solve some of your problems? All these different reasons why people use LinkedIn. Now there is some networking at etiquette here. I like to always bring that up in the beginning, not at the end when you're getting tired. But it should always be a soft sell from your content post. So if you start to post things, and this includes looking for a job, it should be a soft sell. It shouldn't be bang, first thing out of the box. If you're going to make a pitch on a sale or a product, or like I'm doing a seminar at a trade show coming up, and I'm going to send it out to people on my list and let them know that I'm doing this presentation, and I've got some great, some companies are allowing me to use their databases for the day, and so it's a sales prospecting class, and they're actually going to be able to, I would say, in the 3 hours, if they don't walk away with 2 or 3 or maybe 5 really good leads from the work that we do in the class, I would be totally shocked. And so I'm going to use LinkedIn to send that out to people that sort of fit the right profile, so that I'll search everybody in I have about 1,500 people that I'm connected to, and I'll just search for sales of people that I have a first level contact with, and then I'll send it out to them and let them know what I'm doing. But it's still going to be, it's not going to be a sales pitch. It's just going to be telling them about something that I'm doing, and see if they're interested and might want to spread the word. Don't post a pitch to a group. That's a really bad thing to do. You could have 70,000 people in a group, and now you posted it to a group, and probably the majority of that group's not interested in it. There are 2 or 3 groups that I follow and follow a lot, but the reality is I'm in a lot more groups than I follow. And so if I get a pitch from somebody and it's not one of the groups that I follow regularly, I'll just ignore it. And a lot of people are like that. You want to send them a personal message if you can, and do not use the default offer to connect. If I really am trying to do something, I mentioned earlier that I've used it to go after Clemson graduates that work with variable data, and I do a survey. Once I find out who they are, and maybe I get a list of 20 of them, I will literally send out 20 messages. I will personalize each one of the messages, and I'll get much better results. I'll get more people responding to me. Even if you were trying to send it out to 100 people, that might be impractical, but I would only expect in a situation like that to get about 20. But I'd probably get pretty close to 18, 18, maybe 17, 18 responses of that 20. Usually is pretty typical when I do it and I personalize it. Again, when you're sending out messages, if you're trying to connect, you don't want to use the default connection that you get from LinkedIn either. So character limits are really important. I've got a handout sheet for you that talks about some of these as well, but this is the majority of the ones that you're probably going to come in contact with. If you get a little deeper into LinkedIn, you might go a little bit further. On the handout sheet, it talks about some things that aren't on this list, but these are some basic things that I'm going to talk about, and I want you to understand. For example, up here, I'm just going to use my cursor. Your first name can be only 20 characters long. I don't know too many people that have a first name over 20 characters, so that's not a problem. And your last name can be only 40. Your headline, this is who you are, 120 characters. You'll see, we'll talk more about these main things, and you want to use as close to as you can to the 120 on that one. That's how people find you. Your summary, you've got 2,000 characters. Tell people who you are. We'll talk about that. Recommendations. I have mixed feelings on this. I have people that ask me to write recommendations for them, and I'd rather write them a recommendation specific for the company that they were doing, but that's me as a teacher, and I write recommendations a lot. If I was selling business through my LinkedIn page, say I was a consultant, recommendations might be much more important. I think when you look at Vivica Van Rosen's, when I go to hers in a little bit, you'll see that she has quite a few recommendations on her from work that she's done with other people. Specialties, you've got 500 characters to talk about some of the things that you do specialties in, you're really good at, or something like that. A vanity URL is, you can actually, as you'll see with mine, I actually have linear. So this first part that's in here is standard, and then you get to put after this last slash, after the IN, you get to create something. And if somebody's already used it, then you get to put a number after it or something like that. But that will allow people to recognize it's your LinkedIn page. And so I'll show you how to do that. You can put website descriptions in there. So let's say you want to send people to 2 or 3 web pages on your company's web pages that are very significant to things that you do. You can actually define and write a description up to 26 characters of what that web page is that you're doing. Your position title, so if you've had 10 jobs, you have 100 characters to say what your position title is. So you might say, I certainly wouldn't say CMO. I would say, Chief Marketing Officer. So I think the thing is to learn how to use the characters, right? Company name, you've got 100 characters. I'm up here on the second column, position description. You have 2,000 characters. Now, I generally don't think you'd want to use 2,000 for most of that, but depending upon what you did at a company, if you were doing a lot of different things, this may tell people an awful lot about you. So that might be, realistic to do that. I'm sort of a big fan on sort of telling a story in the beginning and then using bulleted points. Don't just make big bulleted points. It makes a lot more sense when you have the bulleted points after people sort of understand the story behind it. When you're doing a position description, I always try to tell people what were the life skills that you learned in that job position that you can take further on in your life and do more things with. Education and degree names, you've got 100 characters to do that. Education field of study, you've got 100 to do that. Your education and activities in societies, you have 500 to do that. These are characters, not words. I want to make sure you understand that. Groups and associations, you have 1,000 characters. That's for each one that you list. Honors and awards, you have 1,000 characters, and then you have 80 skill sets. And then one other list, again, there are some other things, other fields and all, but these are general ones that I find most students and most graduates use. But one really important limit is that you can be in a maximum number of groups, and that's 100. And I would really encourage you, as you look at other people's profiles and you see a group that seems interesting to you, then join that group. And then when other people are looking at your profile, they may join your group. For my graduates, my students, I require them to be in at least 10 groups. But that is a minimum requirement, and I'll get into that in another slide. So the critical minimal parts of your profile that you have to develop is you have to create an appropriate headline. I have a slide for each one of these to be very specific about all of this. So you have to have an appropriate headline. This is your first impression. Okay, honestly, your photo is really your first impression. And you need a good photo. And you'll be interested when I show you a couple of people's profiles here at the end of this slide. I'm going to go out and show you a few profiles. There's one person that really surprised me, doesn't even have a picture. It says there, and this is from the statistics from LinkedIn, is that there's 14 times more views when you have a photo. If you don't have a photo, a lot of times people just go right past you. The other thing is maybe you type in somebody's name and there's 20 people with that same name. It's the photo that's going to make you say, oh, that's the person I saw at the trade show, because you remembered it. And they've made the photo smaller, a smaller part, and it is really just supposed to be a headshot now, and I'll get into that in more detail. Your summary, this is where you can tell people who you are and what's important to you. You could include a YouTube video, images of your work, a news release. I really, really discourage people from putting a resume in here. Your LinkedIn page is a resume on steroids. So to put your resume in here, conceptually to me, is ridiculous. Put samples of what you do. You couldn't do that on your resume. This is so much more than your resume. So don't stick your resume in there. If somebody else tells you to do that. I was watching one video just to see if there were any updates, and LinkedIn changed it. And this one woman was doing this whole talk, and she said, "Oh, keep the summary short, and put your resume in there, and don't write a lot on this because it'll be on your resume." No, your resume should be one page. This can be just a ton of stuff and a ton of detail, and people can really learn who you are and what you do. And again, as I talked about when you're talking about activities you're in and your job experience, you can talk about life skills that you've learned. In your education, outline each college that you went to and explain your courses of study. Do not list the courses you've taken. For somebody that's been to that school, they know what courses you've taken. They understand that degree program. For someone that's never been there, they have no idea what those classes mean. Tell them in a story. Now, if you want to give two paragraphs, and then you want to give a bulleted list of some of the skills that you've learned, that's fine. But do not just give them a list of courses that you've done. That is so grade school. You can almost tell how people aren't doing a very good job with it. Groups, very powerful. Again, and for my class, it is a minimum. You have to be in 10 groups. Have to be on your list. And you have to be careful because some groups won't show up on yours. And so you have to make sure that I can see the 10 groups, not so you have to look at your profile on somebody else's computer to see what other people are seeing, not what you're seeing. You have to make sure things are turned on, and I'll show you how a lot of people just don't turn certain things on, and people can't see certain parts of their profile. And you have to make sure you turn these things on. Volunteer experience is a new section that they have. They dropped a few things when they redid this last year, and 2 things that they've added is volunteer experience. This may be something that somebody's very interested in. If you say you work with Relay for Life or the American Cancer Society, and somebody does that, man, that might be why they actually pick up the phone and give you a call and talk to you. It's really important. And then organizations. Tell them about the organizations you belong to and the things you've done in the organizations. It could be work-related, community, or it could be social organizations. What did you do? What did you make a difference? I realized as I looked at this list, I somehow jumped over contact information. You want to have other social media links, a mailing address, phone number, and an email. Now, I understand some people may want to be a little bit private. Maybe a phone number for some people, not right, but you definitely want to give a way for them to get connected with you. So certainly at least an email and a mailing address is, your business mailing address is fine. So these are the minimum requirements that I expect you to have on your LinkedIn page, your LinkedIn profile. So let me switch out and just show you one. I'll show you mine, and I'll show you some of the others. So my LinkedIn, so this is when I open up myself. So I actually have to go to me and say view my profile. So now I'm getting take a look at my profile. You see these pencils. I can edit my profile if I just click on the pencil and change that. The way it always starts out is it starts out with just a little bit of your summary. And then I'm very big that your summary should tell a story about who you are. Mine does. You're welcome to take a look at it and see what it says. You can look at what yours are. I've also added 2 videos here. So these are 2 YouTube videos that I've done. One is the ROI of being an employee. I used to teach this as a part of one of my classes, but it's something that I encourage my students to look at. Is you have to think about, I talk to students, I say, okay, you're going to go out and you're going to make $40,000 when you graduate. How much money do you think you need to make for the company? And they go, well, I need to make my salary and I need to make my benefits. No, you need to make more money than that because they got to pay for the overhead of having you as an employee. They got to pay for your office space. They got to pay for your computer. They got to pay for all these things. So this little video I put up, and now I don't do it in class anymore. I just tell students to look at it. And then the other one is there's a speaker. His name is Scott Stratton. He's a big time speaker. He speaks at conferences. He's a keynote speaker once in a while. And he has this. You can also look him up online. And he goes QR codes kill kittens. Well, I have a rebuttal. He does this literally. I've been at a trade show where he was the keynote speaker, and he does this presentation, and he is talking for about an hour and a half, and he's just downgrading QR codes and all these terrible things about QR codes. And in the middle, he'll give one sentence that says, well, if you market do right, it's a great tool. So his whole presentation really is, if you have bad marketing, you get bad results. If you have good marketing, you get good results. And so I have a rebuttal that I think QR codes used in the right place are just extraordinary. So I put that up. Now he's probably got 1 million hits, and I probably have, a few hundred. But I'm still trying to make a point. So again, you can look at this. It's telling, it's asking you sometimes helping you to strengthen your profile, asking you to do other things. So again, here's my job title, and I talk about what I do in my job title and a little bit of what goes on. I work with conference and trade shows, and I'm a panelist. training facilitator, and these are some of the trade shows I've done, presented at. So I'm telling a story about myself. I am way past a resume. A resume would be a waste of time to put it in here. I'm also a technical expert witness consultant on some patent lawsuits. I don't. That has to be a little bit more private, so I don't have a lot of information here, but it still helps me out a little bit. It was a really long time ago that I was an instructor at Central Piedmont Community College, so I just have a single sentence on there as far as what I was doing. I am working on a new degree right now, so I have a little bit about what's going on at St. Leo's. I'm getting a Master's of Theology. And then when I go to Clemson, I'm talking about what did I learn. So this was my doctorate, and I talked about what I got out of the doctoral program. This was my master's program at Clemson. I have some more educational experience, so it keeps going. Did my undergraduate work at Oswego. I talk about what I learned and some things I took out of there. Then I come down and you have skills. Now I have 47 more skills. I don't have 100, but I have 50 right now, and people can reinforce my skills. Go back and take a look at it. So these are things that you want to do as people are trying to get to know you and see what's going on. And I can always click show less and go back down. So I do have one recommendation. I do have one certification, certified as an electronic data professional. And actually, there's two certifications here. I just didn't separate them. I'm a mail design professional as well. And if I click down on it, I can talk about when I got it and where I got it from. These are groups or entities that I'm interested in. So if I want to show all, I can either look at companies, I can look at groups, or I can look at schools that I'm interested in. So groups I'm always very interested in. This one to me is the one I follow the most. Chief Marketing Officers. It has 293,506 members. The coolest thing about being in a group, and I'll get to this in a few slides, is that I can send any one of them an email and it doesn't cost me, I'm sorry, in LinkedIn we call it in-mail. I can send them an in-mail and it doesn't cost me any one of my in-mails that I get on a monthly basis. And if I am not in a paid service, you can only send an email to a first-level person or a second-level person, but I can send it to anybody in a group here. So there's a lot of pluses here. So you can see the groups that I'm in. You can take a look at this. You can see some look like they're interesting. I sort of evolve and change groups as I'm working on different projects and things like that. And then companies that I'm looking for. So I have a project that I've been working on with convenience store that sell gasoline. So Wawa is one of them. I'm sure all of you around Clemson area have heard of Quick Trip. And then Sheetz is up in the Pennsylvania, Maryland, a little bit of New York and North Carolina area. And heard about Clemson. So these are just some of the groups the companies that I'm following. So you have a choice. I can just close this, and it's just sort of giving you an idea what to do. Now let's look at a few other people. So Vivica von Rosen is a speaker. She goes around the country and speaks on using LinkedIn. And again, I took a distance learning class from her, learned a ton, and I listen to her a lot more than I listen to a lot of other people doing this. She has 500 plus. She actually has over 30,000 people connected to her. You can only have 30,000. The way she gets over 30,000 is she can't ask anybody else, but people can still ask to be connected to her. So this is her summary, and it's a very interesting summary. And she's talking about, what does she do and different things and what are her strengths and so on. And then she's got some different things. So she's got some videos and she's got some different projects that she's worked on, so that you can see what's going on. We have 37 mutual connections, which is always an interesting thing to find out. And Vivica could introduce me to 7 people at LinkedIn if I was interested. Now we get into just some of the things that she's doing. And so she has articles of things that she's done. So there's 59 more articles that I can go down and I can look at of projects and things that she's worked on and she's been involved with. So, that's actually pretty a a pretty interesting element. Now I got to get all the way to the bottom and say less. So that took it's going to take me just a little longer than I meant. But you can see she has, she is like, this is like LinkedIn on steroids. I mean, the only reason hers is like this is because she's marketing herself as a LinkedIn expert. I'm not. I'm marketing myself as a teacher that understands the value of LinkedIn, and I want my students to do that, and I want to make sure that they're getting the most out of it for their career and their job. So I should be getting close to the end of this, and I did. Looks like I have to go back to the top to get out of it. So I have articles, posts, activities. Again, I told you, it says here she has 32,725 people following her, and you can only have 30,000. So she gets quite involved in what she's doing. She has posts, so you can see her post, and then you can look at all the different activities that she's involved with. So just different things that are going on. On the right-hand side, she's got some influencers, some companies that she's following. I can see all the companies that she's following. So again, I can look at influencers, I can look at companies, I can look at groups that she's in, I can look at schools that she's associated with. So these are just all powerful tools of finding out. One of the things when we talk about sales for people is if you can find out what school somebody went to, and you have a salesperson that works in your company and that went to the same school, oh my gosh, that's a foot in the door. There's almost nobody. I mean, so I'm a Clemson graduate. If a Clemson graduate wanted to talk to me, I'm not going to say no to them, you know. So those are the type of things that are extremely helpful as far as what you're looking at. So again, Vivica's is just outstanding. She's just got so many things going on her page and so involved. But again, she's selling herself to become a speaker at the group. Now let's go take a look at companies also can have a LinkedIn page. So it says here that I have one connection. That means I have one first level connection with somebody. They have 51 employees that are on LinkedIn, okay? So what I want to do is, I've already called up the president, I'll show you his in a second, but I want to click on the one person that I'm already connected with. Okay, so again, it says here that I have a first level connection with him. He's the senior account manager at Fine Line Printing Group, and we've been connected for a while, and I can go right to his profile and click on it, and I can read more about him and find out what's going on in his business world and so on. And then again, I can look at all the different activities and things, what's going on with him. Now, I did call up the president of that company. His name is Richard Miller. Very interesting guy. He actually owns 3 companies. Notice he only has 213 connections, which for one tells me right there he's not using LinkedIn very much, but he's the CEO of the company. Surprising to me. Now I did open up his summary, but he didn't write the summary. He didn't take the time to write the summary. Somebody interviewed him and wrote the summary for him. This really should be in first person, and you should be telling a story. And I've got a slide that tells you what I'm looking for on it. I can either in-mail him or I could connect with him. Again, I am a second level connection with him. I know him. I've spoke at his company. We've talked to him. He's not a big social media guy. If you keep going down his record, he doesn't have much on any other things here in his interests or companies or anything like that. So a very, very brief one. But what I would say is even worth is largest printer in the United States is Aura Donnelly. Second is Quad Graphics. This is the president of Quad Graphics. Now I'm a third connections with him. First connection means we've connected with each other and agreed to be connected. Second connection is I'm connected to somebody and they're connected to somebody at a first level, so they're a second level connection. So this person's 3 away from me. I could send him an email. Notice he doesn't have a connection button. He doesn't want to connect with people. He only has 65 people. I could send him an email and he might answer me, but I seriously doubt it. He doesn't even have a picture. Remember I said earlier, you have a 14 times higher follow-ups that people have when you have a photo in there. To not have a photo is why bother have a page. He's the CEO of Quad Graphics. What does that mean? How big is the company? What's he doing? He went to Skidmore College. Well, at least I can sort of tell his age, okay? So he went to college in 87 and graduated in 91. Okay, so that tells me I'm a little bit older than him, but not too much. He follows Skidmore College and follows Quad Graphics. Not helping me very much. If printers want to sell their company, this is the perfect place to sell their company. Any company, sell yourself. If in printing, I always talk about printers are trying to be marketing service providers to solve their customers' problems. You don't want to say in your summary, hey, I'm a marketing service provider. But if you describe what you do, then they'll understand you are a marketing service provider. So let's go back to the PowerPoint, and I'm going to go through a few more slides here. Appropriate headline, you want to outline your photo. This is typically the first thing that people see. Outline. Outside of your photo, this is typically the first thing they see. It's certainly the first thing they read. So this is your first printed impression. You have 120 characters. That's counting spaces, punctuation marks, everything. Write it down, figure it out, use Word, get it as much as you want. Don't just say, I'm a pressman. Don't just say, I'm a student. If here at Clemson, you're a student and maybe you've done one internship someplace. You got 120 characters. This is how people find you. And by the way, when I go back and I talk about your name, it's really important with your name that if you go by something else, so my name is John, John, but let's say it was Jonathan, but I went by John. I would put Jonathan, and then in quotes I would put Jon, because if people were searching for me and they just put John and Jon, they would never find me if I wrote Jonathan. Okay, now I said all of that, and still my name is John, John. But my point is, like, if you're Patrick, or if you have a nickname, or you go by your middle name, put it in parentheses, because otherwise people are never going to find you. I try to find all my students first week of school, and there are 2 or 3 people I can never find because they go by something other than the name that's in the computer system, and I wouldn't know it. I'd never find them. So use your heading is as important as your name. And what do you want to be known for? If we just go back and look at my heading, I'm just going to open that back up again. I think it's a really good example. So I start off that I'm a professor at Clemson University. I'm an educator. I'm a speaker. I'm a trainer. I'm an author. I've written 120 articles. I've written chapters in 2 different textbooks. I'm very strong in digital print. I'm very strong in marketing. Very focused on marketing service provider, and very good in variable data. So these are all things that I do. So if people are searching for me, these are like keywords that I'm going to pop up. That's 118 characters, by the way. So you want to try to get as close as you can. And again, every space, I use a pipe that's a pipe between sort of topic areas. I use a pipe to separate it. I use commas where the things are related to each other. All of those things count, so it's 120 characters total that you've got. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. Photo, it needs to be professional quality. It shouldn't be a selfie. If your cell phone's actually high enough quality, if you take it with a good background and you get somebody to take it for you standing a few feet away and don't have your back up against the wall, it should typically be a headshot, especially if you look now, you only get to see the center of it. I've seen people that have had 4 people in the picture, and now in the new version, you only see like 2 of the 4 people because they only use a small part of the picture. So it should definitely be a good, strong headshot. And if you could go in where they've got lighting and stuff like that, but a good picture taken outside with a flat background is fine. But a headshot is what you're looking for. You can plan the background to be maybe the background of your building or a plant or something, but you need to be able to focus on your face. There's not a lot else that people see other than your face anymore because of the way they changed it. It should be appropriate around your position. Okay, what do I mean by that? Okay, if you're the president of a company, I probably expect to see you in a coat and tie. If you're a production employee and you're working in the press room, probably want to see you in whatever you wear in the press room. So it should be appropriate for whatever your position is. Definitely not a group shot, and you want to avoid distractions. You don't want to have your pet in there, your favorite motorcycle, things like that. There are several other places you can put things like that are important to you. You know, if you're a big motorcycle fan, you can put that down in sort of an interest area, and you can have some pictures and videos and things like that if you want, but not in your photo. Contact information, again, basically up in the top here it says, do you want the viewer to contact you if they think you might be able to work together? If you don't look at your in-mail, they're never going to contact you. So give them a phone number, even if it's the general phone number to the company. Maybe you know, if you're the CEO of the company, that's fine. Give them your secretary's phone number. And your secretary is basically the gatekeeper. Is she going to let them through or not? But the bottom line is, do you want to connect or not connect with someone? If you don't want to connect, don't create a profile. Okay, if you're my student, you don't have a choice. You have to make a profile. All right, you need to give them a way to connect or to your surrogate. Give them an option to contact you the way they prefer to communicate, not the way you prefer to communicate. My kids prefer to text. I would prefer that they would answer my phone calls. Sometimes I have to text them and say, please call me, and then they will call me. But I'm always leaving voicemails if I try to call them. I want to talk on the phone. Email is better for me. In-mail, I have my in-mails automatically, will come to my email, so I will see them. And of course, maybe somebody needs to send me something, so I also give them a mailing address. I encourage everybody to personalize their URL. I will show you how to do that in just a moment. And your company, if you can put your company homepage, and maybe again if there's some other web pages that really are appropriate to what you do, and then specific pages inside your company website that you can identify. I did this one time, and I hadn't checked it for a while, and I was going to a link that didn't exist anymore. Let me go out and show you a couple of those things. When I'm working on this, I can add things to my profile. So I could add that I'm talking in I can speak in different languages, contact and personal information. So if I want to, if I go to this, if I want to show more, you can see that what I've got is I have this. This is my LinkedIn profile. This is what I put on my business card. This is what I put on my emails that goes out. So if people want to go look at my LinkedIn, so there were no other line-inners when I did this, so I didn't have to put a number. I tell people, like, if you put line-inner and put the year you were born, or put, just pick a number and put it after it, and then you'll probably be okay. But if I want to change something, I just go to edit. So I can come in here, so I can, if I wanted to change this, I would have to go up and change it and take a look at what it is. Again, I can go in now and I can change it to exactly what I want. I'm very comfortable with what it is, so I'm just going to save it. I want to go, I got to this, normally I would have just gone into my profile that I showed you earlier. So I'm now at my profile, and I'm editing my profile. Over on this right-hand side, I can edit my entire profile if I want. But this is what's really important, is make my profile public, profile visible to no one. That's bad. Don't turn that on. Make my public profile visible to everyone. And then I get to check what do I want on it. Do I want them to see the headline? Do I want them to see websites? Do I want them to see summaries, current experiences, details, past experience? Basically, I check yes to everything. Okay. So this is what I want you. So every once in a while, I find what happens is students have group checked off. It's not checked on, and so when I go to grade it, there's no groups that show up, and I take points off. So you have to make sure that you're sharing things, everything that I've asked you to share. And again, the idea is, do you want to have people find you or not have people find you? That's what it's really boiling down to. Okay, so. Let me go back. I believe I can just go back to contact information. So I can put in more websites here. This would be my URL, and then I get to type what I want it to be called. If you go back to the character limit page, it tells you how many characters. I think it's 26, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm also part of the XMPy users group, so I've got that link. I also have this I have to update. It's actually a new one. I think it still takes you automatically to the other one, but it's the GC web page. I'll have to double check that. So I'm just going to save everything I have. And again, when I'm going back here, I can look down and see what else it is that I can add. There are some new sections that they put in. Work experience is not new. Education is not new. Volunteer experience, as I said, was. So that's something you can add. Skills is not new. Accomplishments is something where if you have publications, you can put those in. Certifications, they did have that before. They didn't have it broken out, so now I'll break it out. Courses that you've taken. Again, I really frown on this from people. I really discourage people from putting courses in there. For most people, it doesn't mean a lot. But projects that you've worked on, honors and awards. If you happen to have a patent, that would be rather unusual for most students, but actually if you have. Test scores, I'm not really sure I'd really want to put my test scores here. If you speak multiple languages, that might get you the job. Then again, organizations, that goes back to my webpage that I was trying to show you. So a contact information, you get to decide what you're going to put in there. Your summary needs to tell a story. It shouldn't be written by somebody else. It should be something interesting about you. Okay, that's going to want them to keep reading, to make you somebody that they want to connect with. Facts can come later. Tell them how you're different from everybody else. They should be able to glean insight to your values. A brief work history. There's plenty of space later to talk about your jobs. You don't want to talk a lot about your jobs here. I generally say you should have 3 paragraphs. Okay, your first paragraph generally is, what is your job now? What is it that you do? Second paragraph is, how did you get there? And the third paragraph that I'm looking for is, what are you passionate about? And it doesn't have to be with your job. It could be a hobby. It could be a volunteer organization that you're doing with. But it's telling people a little bit about who you are, okay? And people, people will connect with you because of things like that. How did you get where you are today? What really gets you excited, and what benefits do you bring to the table? Down at the bottom here, it just has a summary. The summary needs to be updated at appropriate times. If you change jobs, it's funny. In the last 2 days, I've just called 2 people for a project I'm working on, and as it comes down to it, both people moved. They're at different companies, but they never let anybody know. Let me go back and show you how you let somebody know. So if I make a change here in something, I have a chance right here once I make the change. So I can scroll down and make a change in my summary. And by the way, I just did this just recently. I had on May 3rd, I had a granddaughter born, and so I added that to my summary. Not a lot, but just a little bit. But I didn't want to send it out to everybody. I do have Facebook, and I let people know on Facebook. But as long as I keep this checked, when I save it, nobody's going to know. But if I change jobs, okay, if I changed my title, go back up here to the top, and I changed my title that I'm no longer professor at Clemson University, I'm going to click that button to yes, and when I hit that save, it's going to send out the message that I changed jobs. So this is where you do it. Again, I'm just gonna click save. I don't remember I actually made a change, but again, I just go in almost anywhere I was going to make the change, and then it's asking me, do I want to share my profile changes? Keep it on no unless it's something that's really important, like a job change or something. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. I think we've got summary covered, experience and education. There is some overlap here with the summary elements, but this is where you give people more background of who you are and more of what you learned on your job and in your educational experience. If you've had multiple jobs inside one company, with multiple companies, tell them about each job, tell them what you did. You have up to 2,000 characters for each job. Under each education, each school that you list, cover each college that you attended, the degree that you received, and tell them a little bit about what you studied, but avoid giving them a list of classes that you take. You think I've emphasized that enough? Avoid giving them a list of classes. That's just, to me, a telltale sign of people aren't doing the right thing. Groups, volunteer experience, and organizations. Something volunteer or experience in organizations new they added. But people can learn a lot about you when they look at the groups that you're in. And when you list volunteering experiences and organizations you belong to, it tells them a lot about you outside of work. It tells them who you are, what's important in your life. So these are also some of the things that when they start searching for people on LinkedIn, this is why they find you, because of these volunteering experiences, these keywords that come up. Groups are an incredible resource. I cannot under-emphasize this. You can be up to 100 groups, okay? I tend to stay around 50, and I might join 10 new groups one semester, and then another semester I drop 10. I sort of, if I'm working on a project, I sort of keep it flowing. You want to mix the groups between your interests and groups in your context that, I'm sorry, I'm not saying this very well. Let me try one time. You want to mix between a mix between groups you're interested in and groups your contacts are interested in. What do I mean by that? Let's say I'm in sales and I'm trying to sell to, I've used the example of gas stations, convenience stores that sell gas. Well, I would want to be in those groups. I would want to be in those trade associations. I would want to try to find the places where they hang out. So try to do that. And then you can also have a few groups that you're interested in something. So it tells you who you are. Let's say you're into sailing. So be in a group that has an interest to you. Okay, you can follow a group to learn more about a topic or a market. You can post questions to a group for solutions. If you do that, you need to go back and look and see if somebody answered, and then answer them, especially if they asked another question. You can post information to share or something that will promote your image. Groups are an incredibly powerful thing. The other benefit of a group is, if I am in a group with somebody, there were like, 290,000 people in the CMO group, I can send an email to anyone in that group. That's 290,000 people that I am not a first level connection with, but I can send them an email. I have a connection with them through the group so that I can communicate directly with them. It's very powerful. It's a great way to do it, especially if you don't want to pay for the service. When you post to a group, don't post too often. If you post to the entire group, make sure it's relevant to the entire group. I can't think of too many times. If it was a small group, 50 or 100, maybe that's appropriate. But if it's a group of 290,000 for the CMOs, it would have to be a sort of a big picture question, not a question that is very personal to just one individual. So think about what you're doing. It should be relevant to the group. People post the same message to multiple groups. It's not a good thing to do, especially if a lot of people are in the same groups and they see it over and over again. And then you can actually get, people can complain about you, and you can get basically blackballed by LinkedIn so that you won't be able to connect with people. If you post something, you need to return to the group and review the comments and people's questions and responses. Very important to do that. And you want to proof everything you write. Everything I write in Word, I do spell check, and then I copy and paste it into whatever it is that I'm doing. If it's really important, get somebody else to proofread it. I proofread my own stuff, and I miss a lot of things all the time. If it's really important, I get somebody else to read it. Connecting the right way. Avoid clicking on the connect button on people you may know or people who viewed your profile. That will give the default message. That is a terrible way to connect. The right way to connect, okay, is this is the wrong way. It says, "Hi John, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn." I'm not answering that person. I might, if it says that they went to Clemson University, I might look at their profile. If it's a graduate, I might I might accept it, but usually I don't. This is a terrible way to connect. The right way to connect, okay, is to search their name. So when you're looking for somebody, you find their name. So I'm just going to go back and I'm going to do a search on, let's see, well, those are all people I'm already, I don't know that I'm connected with Mario yet. So I'm a second connection with Mario. I've actually asked to be connected, so it's pending. But if I went to someone that was new, and let's just let me just try to come up with somebody that I can think about that I might not be connected with. Mike. So let's look. So this is Mike Stinnett, teacher at Royal Oak High School. If I want to connect with him, now I have a second connection, which means I'm connected with somebody that he's connected to, okay? I'm in his profile. I can see his profile, okay? So now I click the connect button. When I click the connect button, I want to add a note, and I have 300 characters to tell him why we should connect, okay? So I'm not going to connect with him right now. I was just trying to show that to you, so I'm going to close this. And let's go back. And so when you're trying to connect, okay, you want to connect the right way. This is the wrong way. This is a summary. This is a true one, and I actually have hers called up. She's still here. I got this, and she has to connect, and I'm like, who are you? I have no idea who you are. And this is her summary, and it says, hey guys, my name is Melissa Felicity, and I'm in Quebec City, and I'm pretty crazy about computer games, and I normally call myself a technology geek. I mean, this is like her Facebook profile or something. And this is her. She's still got the same thing. Not exactly the right picture that you want to do. So really something that you want to try to avoid. So not a very good summary. I would give her a D. Actually, I'd probably give her an F minus on hers. But the right way to connect, okay, don't just repurpose your dating profile. The right way to connect is in this one. You have 300 characters to convince them that there is value for them to connect with you. Considering any one of these strategies. Remind them how you met. Hey, I saw you at a trade show. Explain why you want to connect. You're working on a school project, and it would be helpful if you connected. Describe the benefits for each of you. You need to make it a win-win. Compliment them. In other words, if you've looked at their profile and found out they just won an award, or their company just won an award, compliment them on something you saw in their profile, maybe in their summary. I talk about in my summary, if I just go back and show you my summary. Gosh, I don't think I'm still up here anyplace. So let me go to mine again real quick. So I'm just going to go to me, view profile, and show more. In my summary, in my second paragraph, it says, if you ask my students, you find out for most of them they say I'm a hard teacher, that I ask a lot, but I'm fair. I'm also a Christian who tries to live his faith on his job and set high standards and expect others to step up and take advantage of the opportunity. I've honestly had a tremendous number of people that have commented on just that one paragraph, and that I'm living my faith. So people will connect with you for all sorts of different reasons. Compliment them, something on their webpage, find something on their profile, point to something that you have in common. Mention somebody that you have in common. So if you see that you have, it tells you that you have, 8 people that you have a common connection with, mention one of those people. You can actually, last thing, you can actually ask one of those people that's a first level contact with them. You can ask them to introduce you, and that's a stronger way sometimes to get to talk to them. Other things to think about is a status update, turning them on and off. I've already covered that, showed that to you. Put your LinkedIn URL on your business card. It's another reason why you want to personalize it. Recommendations, testimonials, those are all positive things for a lot of people. I don't have many. I don't need them. It's not going to help me in my life, so I don't pursue those. It might be something in your profession or what you're doing, or your career. It might make sense. If you've got some really cool projects that you've done, you can put that in there. There's places for that. Background photo in the banner. If I just go back and show you mine, this is a panoramic view that I did. The library is over here, and just a sort of the main campus. It was pretty cool. I put it all together and made that my background photo. So what's your background photo going to be? Make it something that's interesting. And then groups, again, get your company involved in groups and be a contributor. You can't, like, what's really weird is Clemson can have a group for Clemson University, but the Department of Graphic Communications doesn't actually have a group. We do have something like that, but it's not the Department of Graphic Communications. You can't have multiple company groups. So it's just sort of an individual group that we've set up. So hopefully that is a good start for you. And for my students, you have to follow the 10 minimum steps that I've asked you to do, and that's what I will grade you on.